Hello, so today, this is, this is kind of on a whim. However, I feel like we're at a good point in time for Daybreak where I can actually make one of these again. Ignore my laptop, it's being kind of funky. Today we are doing a meta tier list on the Daybreak Killers as of the current update with the release of Dante and Danya. Not Dante, Danya and Millicent. I will only be going over killers, so if you see all these survivors right here, ignore that. Please ignore that. We're not gonna go over that. With this, although tier lists with the matter are kind of, what's the right word? They're kind of more opinion based. I'm gonna try to keep these based on factual evidence, as much based on factual evidence as I can. And with this, they will be placed in like different categories and judged on them. First category they'll be judged on is counterability. That's not a word, but like how easy is it to counter this killer, whether it be in the map, whether it be by a survivor, whether it be by general mechanics, all that stuff. The second one is how effective their ability is. So when you use their ability, how much are you going to achieve from it? How much are you going to get back from using that ability? I forgot what I have the third one as, but the replacement for third will be potential in a high level lobby. Now, before y'all jump me on that, what I mean potential in a high level lobby, I mean that if you were to play this killer at their max potential in a high level lobby, so that's, I'd say level 1,300 and up or 2,000 and up, what is the probability of this killer still winning? Because Daybreak is a very mixed experience game. You'll have like a level 10,000 playing with a number 4, or a level 24,000 playing with a level 3,000. It's crazy. As of now, I'm in the level 3,170 range. So I've been playing this game for a minute. I'm definitely a killer main in this game, as much as I rage on either side. But without further ado, we're gonna get into it. And now immediately, right off the bat, I can put two characters here. You are going there, and you are going here. I'm gonna put her ID. Okay. I know a lot of people are already finna start putting hate comments or whatever, but hear me out on this. I recently made a video about Stalker and her kit. She can be countered extremely easily. So, like, there's barely enough maps she can play on. If you can choose to play on a big map, but you may not win just because of the scale of the map. The game lets survivors know in trial when she's in stealth. And tapping onto that too, she just doesn't really have that much going on with her chase. She does have a bit of gen control, but she'd have to be crouched literally 90% to 99% of the time if she even wants to impact a generator. And if you play her in a high level lobby, there's just so much hyper awareness in high levels that, like, yes, you can win. Shout out to the Stalker mains, but it may not be as likely. So going off of that, I'm putting her in high D tier. I'm putting Star Eater lower, because yes, his ability is pretty strong. Yes, he can be played on a decent amount of maps. Yes, he is very unpredictable, but that unpredictability impacts his kit, because some people, like, you don't know when to teleport. People can determine when you're going to teleport. It's really easy to get rid of his stars, which, given, because he's a very chance-based killer. But there's just, I don't want to say there's way too much unpredictability in this kit, because that's basically the entire idea of this kit. His buffs and stuff are nice, even though he also got nerfed, I believe, at one point. But he's just way too unpredictable, even as the person playing him. So for that reason, he's in actual dog water / exaggerating. I apologize if I stutter a decent amount. I'm trying to go this quick. Slasher. Honestly, I'm arguing A. Whatever. I'm arguing S. I'm not even gonna question it. I'm arguing S. He's great on almost pretty much every map except even Haverhill, because vultures and stuff. Albeit he does have bugs where, like, if you vault and throw at the same time, it won't show your animation. His knife collision is pretty strange, but that benefits your side most of the time. But we're not gonna forget when they patched the trees in pretty much every map in Lakeview, so he could no longer snipe through trees. We miss those days. But he's great on pretty much every map. His ability is extremely effective if you know how to use it. There are a variety of ways to use his ability, so there's like a variety of different types of slasher players, and just if you play in a high level lobby, you have a pretty decent chance of still winning. Whether you be a sniper slasher, a vault slasher, a hit reduction slasher, whatever it may be, he's just a generally really good character. Now, host, this is where it gets kind of tricky. I'm gonna put High B. She doesn't have too many maps she can play on, but it isn't like Stalker where they have to be very congested maps. Host, she can play on congested maps, but she can also play on less congested maps, like Shifty and all of those, to a degree. What did I say the second one was? Her ability is pretty effective. I'd honestly agree that her ability is effective. Right now, I have her at gold. I can't remember which, but I think gold 3. So she's in gold for me right now. Definitely gets low players. I'd even argue that it wastes high levels time too. So she's great at wasting people's time. She's great at having them ignore gen progress. So I honestly say she's pretty good. The only thing holding her back, per se, is Chase. Which even then you could still use her pretty well in Chase. Actually, for that I'm gonna put her at A. Yep, nope. Not imaginary. Unforgotten. If it was Daybreak 1, where it was imaginary friends, I'd argue S. But for this sake, and her buffs now, I'm just gonna put her put them above host. Okay, so I'm the one who can actually talk about this, because I'm a very experienced Unforgotten main. I've played their original character in Daybreak 1. I'm capable of them at level 50 in about a week? 2 weeks? Because that's when I was hyper fixated on Daybreak. Like, I literally play for 10 to 15 hours a day. It was so unhealthy. I've basically grown up with imaginary friends / Unforgotten, right? And I have extreme appreciation for this character. Just went through a lot. When it comes to maps, they're pretty much good on every map. I'd argue they're good on basically every map except Haverhill. Yeah, every map except Haverhill. And the new map that I don't want to butcher. They're basically pretty much fine. Very great map control. Very great at wasting survivors' time. If you play them in a high lobby, you'd be pretty successful. I'd say you, at minimum, you have the potential to get like half the lobby out, which some is better than none. So for that reason alone, I'm gonna have them in A. Ghost, I'm gonna put see, that's difficult. I'm gonna make a new thing called A plus and have it be this color. Oh wait, no. A You're gonna be A. Oh wait, no, this is S. Hold on, I gotta fix this. Okay, made a new category called A+. I might put Unforgotten a little higher too, but only reason why I say A+, pretty well, very well-rounded killer. Right now my ghost is at silver, I believe silver 7. I can't remember exactly because I've been on and off with Daybreak because I've been doing other things, but A+. We're not going to talk about that one time they tried to nerf her by putting a red screen over every time she was in stealth. That was not okay. Why are we still nerfing stealth killers? But I digress. Very good ability. Very easy to gain that control. Very great detection system. I also believe her speed is kind of crazy too, which if you think about it, Ghost is pretty broken. But honestly, leave her that way. I think it's great. If you play her in a high lobby, I feel like you'd be pretty good. You get at least half the lobby just from speed alone. And so for that reason, A+. I think she's pretty good. Banshee. I'm gonna put her at A. I said that her ability would be a game changer, but I've kind of known from the start that it wouldn't be too crazy. It's more, rather than it being like an insane buff, it's kind of more minor, because the secondary screeches, like the dev said, they don't do as much gen regression on tap. You can play her on legitimately any map. Like, it doesn't matter what map you play her on, you'll be fine. The new map nerfs every killer, so I can't even really talk about the new map like that. Her ability is pretty effective if you know how to use it, and if you play her at max potential in a high lobby, you did pretty good. You did pretty good. Oh my god. You do pretty darn good. So for that reason, she's going behind Unforgotten. Warden, I'm gonna put in B. You can play him on pretty much any map. Like I said, that isn't the new map because we're not gonna talk about that map. His perk, it's a really good slow. I'll argue it has a really good slow. And if you use him at his highest potential, in a high lobby, it's kind of hard to say. You have to time your electric orbs really well. Okay. I deeply apologize for the cooling mat in the background. My laptop is like burning alive. I have to have it on. Showstopper. We're not going to talk about it. Nope, actually. C. I'll put her at C. Her ability used to be, well, her ability has had some weird changes. When she was Nadia in Daybreak 1, I missed Nadia so much, by the way. Like, Jules' design is good, is amazing, it's great, but Nadia was so unique. I miss her so much! Oh my god. But I'm getting off track. Her ability in Daybreak 1 used to be where she just completely blocked off of all. She could still get hard countered, but like, With Jules now, it's slow Survivor. Now the slow is pretty dramatic, which is extremely good. Her ability itself is really good. The buffs she gets from downing, really good. She can be lethal when she has like an extremely high amount of stacks. The only thing is with basically all you gotta do is hold W, and if you're in a high level lobby where a lot of people understand the concept of stamina management, which even then I'm still struggling to learn. It takes a minute to learn stamina management, even as like a level 3000. My gripe with her is that, and a lot of people too, I've talked to it with my friends, where if Jules puts the mirror on a vault as a survivor is vaulting, they should get the slow during the frames of it coming up. A survivor does not get impacted by the mirror slow until the frames of the animation on the mirror is complete. That's what I've noticed. Or like a good 90% of the way through the frames of it coming up. And that can hinder her to like an extreme amount. Her anti-loop kit by itself is good. That's the only gripe I have. She's good on a lot of maps. Preferably though, ones that are medium to small. I'd say more medium range. So that's why I'm putting her at C and above Stalker. Apostate, I'm going to put above Jules. Why is she in C? She, I know I keep comparing to Daybreak 1, but just listen to what I'm saying. I'm only comparing it to Daybreak 1 to tie it into the changes in Daybreak 2. In Daybreak 1, when she was previously called the Overgrown, right? Rather than just having it be just sit still placement, her ability was a projectile. So it could actually like go forward like a red knife, and depending on how far it went, that's where the orb would be placed. Once it collided with an object, the orb would be placed. Now, when you use her orb, it's stationary. So wherever you activate the ability is where the orb is placed. And in Daybreak 1, you gained stacks passively when you were in the orb. So not only did you get them from completing a gen or somebody getting down, so like how her ability is now, when you were in that orb, your stacks went up really fast. Now, when a survivor walks into an orb, you get a kind of decent chunk of stacks for salvation, and then you don't gain any more, which is, I understand for the fact that you don't want survivors to be out of the match like that, but at the same time, that's not doing that much for you. The slow is great. I'll argue the slow is still good, but there's just not as much pressure when you're in the bubble, because when you're in the bubble, it's like, oh, okay, I'm in the bubble. I get a bit of stacks. My fault, OG. And you keep going. But in Daybreak 1, it was like, oh crap, I'm in the bubble. I need to get out. I don't want to get one shot. So for that reason, that's going to drop her really low. She's better on medium to small maps. So anything between, say, Dawnwood, even though that's a pretty big map, but I'd say Dawnwood if you're trying to lock Commander, and Lakeview and all of that good stuff. If you played her in a high level lobby, you would probably flop for the most part. But if you're an extremely experienced, like I'm talking Arisen, Apostate, I think you'd be fine. No, Apostle, not. I don't even remember anymore. Let's get to Principal. Principal, I'm putting him above Polluted. Well, actually, yeah, no. I was a Principal main when he first came out, all the way up until I think halfway through Daybreak 1 early access. I mean, Daybreak 2 early access. I love his kit. Very great anti-gen. If you are good with your chase and you're very diligent about when you lunge, you can get a lot of pressure off. So like you can reject a lot of gen progress by not even being there. The Empower kick is also really good, I'd argue. He's good on every map as long as it's not phenomenally big, like the new map, but he's generally weaker. I'd say, no. I feel like if he was in a large lobby and you were at max potential, you'd be really strong. But tying into that, if anything that I'm saying makes sense, if you played him in a high lobby, I'd honestly still argue you'd be successful. As long as you roam around and kick gens when needed and you pay attention to your cooldowns. So yeah, he's good. And for that, actually, I'm gonna swap him in Werewolf. So I'm gonna put Werewolf back to high B, and I'm gonna put him at. Actually, no. I'll put him above Werewolf. Janitor, A plus. A plus. Great on a lot of maps. Relatively. That whack, the bonk. I'm pretty sure it's called bonk, or I just called it bonk. It removes 50% bleed out on tap. Cooldown 45 seconds. That's insane. That's really good. And then his worked ground slow, extremely effective. It's great. Although he lacks stuff when it comes to gens for a decent part, his control is really good. And he's pretty fast. Like, you have to realize he's pretty fast. If you played him in a high level lobby, you do decent damage. If not just pressuring survivors to get off a gen and go heal because of the bonk. So yeah, he's awesome. Great killer. Would I put him above Ghost? Not really. Well, actually, no, yes. Well, no. I'd say they're in the same boat because they both gain intel. They're in the same boat. Void Shulk, I'm gonna argue high B. These C tier Void Shulks don't understand. It's all about the vaults. It's all about the vaults. It's all about knowing when to end chase. It's all about knowing when to lunge. Like Werewolf and Principal, there's a lot of diligence when it comes to Void Shulk, despite her pretty low cooldowns. If you played her in a high level lobby, it's 50-50. But generally, she doesn't have too many counters and all those things, so very great mobility killer. Decent passive, though I feel like it should be buffed, but again, this is based off of current events. Watcher, there's no. Yeah, I'm gonna put him. I'll put him above Polluted. Him and Polluted are pretty much in the same boat, mostly. His survey is really good. That's the thing that's carrying him right now, is his survey. His actual active ability, where he can figure out where survivors are as long as they're on a gen or moving around in his radius. It's good. Pretty good intel. I also like the visible design. It makes it easy to read. His lunge, iffy at best. If you played him in a high lobby, your survey may or may not become useless. It's 50-50. Like I said, just too unpredictable to know. Because skill checks aren't hard. They're not hard at all. But if you look away for 1 second, that's when it kind of gets crazy. But a decent-ish amount of counters. But like I said, going based off of maps. He's good on medium maps. And if you're locked onto house and cabins in Dawnwood, you're pretty much still fine. Because you can basically survey all of house. I mean, that should. And, yeah. Survey carries him. You can survey every gen. So he's above Polluted. Surgeon. Ooh, Surgeon. Do I put you at S? No. I'm not putting you at S. I'm putting you above Ghost. Why do I put this corrupt surgeon above a killer who can literally become a pool of blood and zoom around the map at extreme high speeds? His lunge increase with his swiftness stacks is insane. Like borderline crazy. Like, he can shut down any loop as he pleases as long as he has a sufficient amount of stacks. He's good on medium, small to large maps, so like he's great. Haverhill is iffy, but he's great on Wastewater, Lakeview. He's great on Roanoke, I'd argue. Just generally pretty good. Great on Shifty. Like, you can gen lock hard on Shifty at bottom subway with Surgeon. If you played him in a high lobby, you can do pretty good damage as long as you have a really good early game. The thing about Surgeon is that, and Werewolf too actually, you have to have a really good early game to get your stuff going. Empress, I honestly argue Empress to be above Banshee under Unforgotten. This looks crazy, but just listen to this. Her nerf didn't really do too much, I'm not gonna lie. But she does damage. If you played her in a high lobby, I don't really think you do too great. But there's always space to come back around. Her lunge is pretty good. It's just you have to learn how to arc. That can be kind of a learning curve for a lot of people. What else am I looking for? She has a high amount of counters. Same thing with Werewolf. If you get shot by a Gavin, if you get stunned by a Momo, in the iframes, your thing just gets canceled. You can't use your ability anymore. So that's the only thing that's really holding her down today. Boss. This is not coming out of bias. Actually, I might put him to A. Plus, it's the best. No. Actually, yeah. No, I'm gonna put him down to A+ instead of S. His buff made him like actually crack as an Arisen boss. I've grown with him a little bit, even though I played him I think like a month or two after he actually released, because I thought he was kind of boring at first, and then I was like, wait a minute, his mobility is actually so fun, and I picked him up, and I loved him ever since. I already have a video on his changes and how that impacts his gameplay, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. So, but he can get intel very quickly as long as he has a sufficient amount of stacks. He can switch very frequently if he has a sufficient amount of stacks, and even though his hitboxes are kind of dookie at times and weird to determine, like I swing pretty early with brass knuckles, that's my bad. Just gotta use the changes. So with that too, if you played him in a high lobby, excuse me, I don't think he'd do as good as Surgeon, just because he won't make people panic too much unless it's Crowbar. But Crowbar is so slow, they can literally run Crowbar. Like, there's so many survivors that can outrun both Crowbar and Brass Knuckles, that's not okay. So that's holding him back to an A+. You can play him on any map though. Like, you can play him on the new map too. So that's kind of what's also in having him in this weird buffer between S and A+. So that's what he's gonna say. We got two more. Dose. Dude. Zest. Preaching for Zinni here. I'm gonna put her... Sorry, Zinni. I'm gonna put her below Watcher. Very great. Very good ability. Like, definitely a better version of what Star Eater was trying to accomplish. Star Eater was trying to be a better Possessed. But if you don't have a crazy amount of diligence and prediction, it's just not gonna work. But Possessed, she can go crazy. She can actually go crazy with her ability. Her orb teleport is really good. Her speed, decent. Her stealth, even though, like I said in the Stalker video, they keep nerfing stealth killers to where they let people know she's in stealth. But hers isn't as bad as Stalker's, because it lets everybody know that she's in stealth, and then it says nothing. So now you're just left in the dark, which is what Stalker originally was, except it didn't let you know at all. And that's kind of what's keeping her up right now. If you play her in a high lobby, I think you do. And decent. But like I said, at max potential, I'd honestly say you do pretty decent. But the thing that's just holding her back is maps, and I'd honestly say detectors. So like Yon and all of them. and then map counter ability, so she can't be played on humongous maps like, I don't know, Dawnwood and the new map especially. So, but like I said before, I'm not gonna let the new map drag anybody down because that map is huge. It's gonna nerf everybody. The only killers I'd say that can move around that map like decently well would be Ghost, Boss, and Unforgotten. Void Choke maybe, but I don't really know. Experiment? No, let me really think about this with this last game. Experiment? Yeah. Yeah, I'll put him in S. I'll put him below Android. Experiment has everything you could ever want in a killer. It slows survivors when getting out of burrow. Gen progress reduction on tap with aftershock. Decent chase stats. Although lunges is pretty good. Intel, you have pretty much everything. Like Android, you literally have everything. You have everything you could ever need. If you play him in a high lobby at max potential, you'd still do great. You can lengthen the game for a really long time. Like if you have to stretch timer, you can definitely stretch timer. And yeah, I can't really say too much. Yes, stunners, but stunners and all that stuff. Very great killer overall. We're not gonna talk about Rocketeer because obviously she's not in the game. But yeah, I think that's all of them actually. So to recap, we have Slasher at S, like he's the highest. I honestly might bring him down. I don't know. Slasher and Android kind of in this weird buff area, but Slasher's just too versatile. He has to be at the top. Android at S, Experiment at low S, Surgeon at high A+, Boss, Ghost, Janitor at low A+, Unforgotten at high A, Empress, Banshee, Post, Principal, Werewolf at low A, Void Shulk at high B, Watcher, Possessed, Polluted, Idol, Warden at low B, Apostate at high C, Showstopper at low C, Stalker at D, and Star Eater at actual Dogwater. Now, I'll take a screenshot of this too after the video. But, like I said before, this is not meant to hate on any killer. They are all great in their own ways, and they all have heavy potential if you know how to practice what's required to meet their niche in trial. Not to be nerdy, but I'm trying to find good wording to really explain this without any crazy conversations. This is based off of map counter ability, some survivor counter ability. So like, how can they how easy is it for them to get countered by the survivors? This is if they were playing in a high lobby, how success at full potential, how successful would they be? All that fun stuff. And I'm actually gonna read over this a second time to make sure that in my brain this is good and that this makes sense. Slasher is the highest. Android, Experiment. S, I believe is fine. A+, I believe is fine. A, I don't know about Empress, actually. B, I'll leave Void Choke at high B just because she can waste a lot of time with survivors. Like she can push timer, pretty decently. And then everything below C, everything from C under is fine. So if you watched all the way through, thank you. All of those watch hours are going to a good place to help me get monetized. Hopefully before the end of the year. We're at 2,716 hours right now. I'm really like clenching my teeth right now that we get to 3,000 so I can apply for monetization. And yeah, we're gonna hit 1K soon. That's insane. Like, where are we at right now? We are at... oh my god, okay. We are at 973. I did not expect that to get higher. I thought that was at 956. Okay, we are under 30 away. Y'all are such a blessing. I love y'all so much. Like, I may be a lot more on and off than I have ever been with YouTube, but this has been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and y'all are really pushing my success. So no matter the craziness I say, no matter how I say it, no matter how you perceive me or what you believe and assume about me, I love y'all, and I love what y'all have done for me as a creator, as an artist, and even now as a developer. So I love y'all. Stay creative. Hopefully y'all get this out tonight. I have to run this through DaVinci because it's like 40 minutes. But we're not going to talk about that. I love y'all. Have a great Thanksgiving if I don't post tomorrow. Peace.